All right, so we have a member with us tonight who will remain anonymous, but he's wanting to find out information from you guys that use sanding sealer, specific shellac as sanding sealer, and what pound cuts you use, what the drying times are, your application method, and everything that's involved with using it as a sanding sealer. So if somebody would like to lead off that conversation, I'd love to, but I don't use shellac, so
I can.
I'm not going to be a know-it-all and talk about something that
And
I don't
in
use.
in fact, he
Yeah,
doesn't even pronounce it correctly.
no,
I
he's
Shellac.
talking about he's
Well,
talking about shellac.
I can talk a little
shellac.
about it. I've actually got some shellac right here. So I usually makes up my own. I use a 2 pound cut. This is raw shellac. This is if you don't know, shellac is produced by the lac beetle, and it is a resin. And so this is super blonde shellac flakes, and this is half a pound of it. I ordered it from oldworldshellacs.com. I'm not sure why Weller Mart is on the bag because this came from Old World Shellac. Uh, but this is pure shellac. You can get it in several tones: ruby shellac. There's a blonde,
Amber, brown.
amber. Yeah, this is super blonde or platina, which is same thing, super blonde. So it's as close to clear as shellac can be. I cut it with Everclear. I've had this bottle of Everclear for 4 years because I only use it to mix shellac. The higher the proof, the quicker it dries. And I generally use for sanding sealer. I make I basically make uh, uh, OB shine juice essentially. I use a 2 pound cut, which is a half a pound of uh, shellac flakes to 32 ounces or 1 quart of liquid alcohol. The reason I use Everclear is because arguably this is food safe. There are a lot of people who tell you this is poisonous, but it's not denatured, so there is not methanol added to it to make it actually poisonous. Unless you consume a lot of this, it'll kill you. It won't kill you, whereas methylated alcohol will. I put it in a plastic squeeze bottle, and you just weigh it out, and add it and shake a lot. And this will actually dissolve into a liquid. You need to use that within about 3 or 4 months, or the alcohol will evaporate and it'll thicken. Um, the way I apply it is with a paper towel. I just depending on what I'm using it on, the more open the grain or the punkier the wood, the heavier shellac I'll apply as sanding sealer. Um, So I will just squirt it on. Now I don't put any oil in my shine juice. I add the oil after, and I'll explain that in a minute. But I put it on either if I only need a light coat, I just put it on paper towel and wipe it on. And then I'll take mineral oil and just dab a little bit of mineral oil on it. The whole point of the mineral oil is just to allow a better friction seal as you rub it in with the lathe turning. So I'll apply it with the lathe stopped, add a little bit, a couple drops, like literally 2 or 3 drops of mineral oil, and then turn the lathe on to about 300 or 400 RPM and rub that paper towel, and the mineral oil smooths it and lets you warm it up enough that it gets a smooth uh, application, no ridges, no weird lumps, no orange peel. Um, and then probably I don't know, maybe a minute's worth of friction application with that, and it's dry. It doesn't stay tacky for more than 20 or 30 seconds. So a little bit of application, it's dry, and then I sand. If you're using it as a sanding sealer, you must expect that you're going to gum up your sandpaper very quickly. I usually use it between 180 and 220 grits and higher. I usually you can use it to stiffen the grain if you've got punky wood. I prefer just using mineral oil for that because it doesn't gum up sandpaper as much as shellac does. But you can use shellac. Shellac will stiffen the grain even more. It'll actually make it hard enough that if you're coming back and cutting with it, uh, you're going to need to really make sure you have sharp tools. But as a sanding sealer, I put it on between 220 and 320 grits, somewhere in there. And again, just a friction application, and then continue sanding up higher. A lot of British turners I know use sanding sealer before they use a sanding paste. So they will hit it with a sanding sealer, and then they'll put sanding paste on the top of that. I can't see any difference in results with the sanding paste I use, whether or not I put the shellac sanding sealer on before or after. And a lot of times I will actually use that as a finish, and I'll do it a lot like a French finish where you apply a very thin layer, give it about if you're using Everclear, it evaporates very quickly. So you give it about 3 minutes to cure and apply a thin layer, and you just build up thin layer, thin layer, thin layer until you get a very, very rich, deep luster. It really does give you a very, very deep antique shine. There's no better way to describe it than old furniture. They used French polishing methods with shellac, and that shine is not reproducible with any modern material. The only way to get that deep, rich, lustrous shine is using French polish methods with shellac. I haven't seen any other way to do it.
I agree.
You can cut the shellac with 91% rubbing alcohol. You can, but that's not food safe. You can cut the shellac with. You can actually cut shellac and have an effective finish with just cheap, a $12 cheap bottle of vodka. It'll work. It just takes longer to dry. The higher the proof of the alcohol, the quicker it dries. So I mean, if you were really hard up, you could grab a bottle of bourbon and cut it with bourbon, but you'd get a little bit of that tannin from the oak, and you'd get some ebonization with it, so you wouldn't get a clear coat with it. But the point is, anything probably over 75 or 80 proof of alcohol is going to allow it to evaporate fairly quickly and give you a decent finish.
So JJ, I make basically the same recipe you do, minus the oil. This jar here is over a year old. I keep it in a mason jar.
Hang on. Yeah, let's see.
I keep it in a mason jar. This is super blonde.
Uh-huh.
I made this over a year ago. So then this is I make 1 pound cut for my sanding sealer. And then when I pour it into this bottle, this is a 1/2 pound cut. And you can see how much more liquidy it is.
Yeah, you thin it out. Yeah.
I thinned it out one more time. But if I'm going to use it as a finish, I found an old French finish recipe, and they recommended using 1 pound cuts so that you can get multiple coats in one day. The only difference between what I do and what you do, JJ, is I use a cotton t-shirt, a lint-free cotton t-shirt, an old t-shirt to put it on with. And I buff it by hand. I don't run the lathe.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And this dries super fast, but it does keep for a long time if you make it in a mason jar.
Yeah. Yeah. And the only reason I use the oil is to buff it with the lathe running. And I just put drops on. I don't mix it in.
Right. But even if you're doing what they call a French polish, there's no oil infused into it. It's all done with shellac by cutting it to a 1 pound cut. If you made your 1 pound cut, you wouldn't need the shellac. You wouldn't need the oil.
Yeah.
I guess is what I'm saying.
So again, as sanding sealer, I use the 2 pound because it's thicker. And so it usually, if I'm using sanding sealer, it's because I'm using it on punky wood.
I can put 2 coats of this on in less than a minute because it's thin. So I usually, like a sanding sealer, like you're going to do if I'm going to sand it, I'm putting 2 coats of this on because it'll dry that quickly.
Yep.
And then I sand it, and then then if I really think it needs more, I just don't use the thin stuff anymore. I don't use the stuff that I've already cut in half again. I go
Okay.
back to the 1 pound.
Excuse
Gotcha.
me, you guys. Thank you so much for all of this. Could you explain, please, what you're talking about in regard to a 1 pound cut? Are you using like 1 pound of shellac?
So
If you go out on the internet and type in how to make shellac, it's going to give you 3 different cuts. It'll give you a 1 pound cut, a 2 pound cut, and a 3 pound cut. It'll tell you how much shellac flakes you got to have per gram and how much liquid you got to have per ounce to create your 1 and 2 pound cuts. I don't have my little book, my cheat sheet book right here right now. Otherwise, I can tell you.
Yeah, hang on just a second. I'm trying to find I just had it open and accidentally hit the wrong button and lost it. Just a second.
So when
Scott?
when you talk about a 1 pound cut, you're not necessarily talking about using 1 pound of shellac flakes.
No,
Oh.
It's a ratio.
it's a ratio. Yeah.
Just
I-
a
I
monitor.
have- Go ahead.
Scott, I don't think you told us what you were cutting yours with.
Same thing JJ uses.
Okay, the Everclear.
I
Yeah.
use Everclear.
Now
Or
151
if you
is
can
the
find
highest.
somebody with real moonshine.
151 is the highest proof I can get in North Carolina. In other states, you can get almost 200 proof.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
the
think
bottle
it's
I
like
get is
190.
the bottle I get is 198. They don't call it
Yeah.
200, but it's
Yeah,
198.
that's the highest. I can't get
We
that
can't
here.
buy 190 in PA anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you probably can only get the 150 or something.
151.
Yeah.
Used to get 190.
Now, how does that compare
for
with
making cherries?
how does that compare with using denatured alcohol?
I'm sorry,
Well,
say again?